Hello and welcome to another episode of Prelude to Positivity. My name is Tommy Geraci, and today my guest is Steven Seidel. He is a fitness coach and a life coach, and I met him, of course, on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, whatever, one of those social media things. And he's with us today to talk about him. How are you, Steven?
I'm well. How are
Did
you?
I say your
Thanks
last
for
name right?
having
Or did I
me.
butcher?
Seidel,
Seidel.
somewhere around there. We don't even know how to pronounce it, I don't think. Like, I think there's debate in our family, like what's the proper way to say it. So yeah, you did it just perfect. So
Yay. So for those of us out there that don't know you and don't follow you yet, tell us a little bit about Steven and how he got into fitness and life coaching.
So I guess basically it all began years ago. No, I just kind of grew up a chubby kid in Kansas. Just was never, I don't know. My journey sort of into health and wellness was just sort of I don't know, it just sort of flowed from how I was raised and how I grew up, being sort of overweight and not super happy with my looks or whatever it was. So it's just sort of the natural progression started, it started me down the path of health and wellness. So I have done that for over 20 years at this point. So I've taught cycling classes for 20 plus years. I was the health and wellness manager for a YMCA in Chicago the last few years of my health and wellness career. And then I sort of branched out and said, I want to do something different. So I took everything and turned it upside down and became a flight attendant. And I've done that now for 5 years. And of course, now with the state of the travel industry, that's kind of a mess right now. But yeah, so basically my whole journey, I feel like, has sort of been about health and wellness and personal growth and doing the things that you're interested in doing and finding out ways to make that happen. So
It also sounds like you let things lead you in the direction you're meant to go. Would you say that you kind of follow along where you're led?
yeah, I do. And I actually used that in a job interview once years ago. I remember my resume was always kind of spotty, and there'd be spots in there where I didn't really even have a job or whatever it was, if I was in school or if I was volunteering in another country or weird things that I've done. And I kind of used that as a way to reframe it into a positive thing, that I've never really chased a career path or money or anything like that. I've always just kind of followed along with the clues of what it is I am interested in and want to do. So yeah, definitely just kind of let my intuition lead the way, I guess. So
Cool. Well, I always say that things tell you what they want you to do if you're listening, and then you either choose to follow it or you don't. But if you don't follow it at that moment, you'll probably end up circling back to it anyway.
right, there are certain things themes that keep coming up, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like I know Oprah said it years ago, so I'm not going to try to take her words, but I know she said, at first it comes as a whisper, and then it comes as a little bit louder voice, and then eventually, if you're not listening to it, it's a brick upside your head.
Yeah, and then
trying to get your attention. So at what stage of that do you start listening is, I guess, the crucial part. So
Yep. So why would someone seek out a life coach or a fitness coach per se? Like, normal person is home and they're struggling. What would they seek out?
well, and what I discovered over the years from all of my years of doing personal training, like one-on-one in a gym setting, what I discovered is I was also fulfilling a role of coaching people towards growth outside of the gym. We'd be working out, but I would hear stories about how I feel stuck in my life. I don't like my job. My husband is this, whatever it is. And so we would have conversations around that and what they would like things to look like, and the steps between where they're at now and where they want to go, and sort of how to get there. And we would solve all these world problems during the course of gym sessions where we're working out physically as well. So I just always feel like the connection between the two is very close. And for someone who's interested in hiring a life coach, basically what it is kind of what I just said. It's taking a look at where you're at now, where you want to be and figuring out the steps that are going to get you there. And a coach is going to keep you accountable towards those things. They're going to challenge you on your, can we cuss on this?
Yeah, sure.
They're going to call, they're going to call you on your bullshit. You know what I mean? Like when you're like, well, I can't do this because of this. So we're going to take a look at like, why is that the case? Is that a true story? Is that something you're making up? You know, and because we have so many limiting beliefs and fears that a lot of times we're like, you know what? I'm happy where I'm at. Okay, I'm not real happy, but I'm too scared or whatever to move forward with anything bigger or braver. So does that make sense?
It makes sense. Do you find that sometimes someone is seeking a physical change, but they can't get the physical change because they haven't worked on the mental part yet?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's an old cliche, right? Like what's eating you? It's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you. But a lot of times, you know, because through physical fitness and trying to change, I would see a client maybe 3 times a week, and that's fine. And that's a great start. But the real transformation happens on their own. It's the 23 hours a day that I don't see you on the day that we do meet. It's the 24 hours in every other day that I don't see you. That's where the work comes in. And that's where the mental work comes in. Like, why am I feeling this way? Why did I eat 2 large pizzas? Or what's going on to sort of prevent you from making these changes that you're wanting to make? So it does start up here, and then everything sort of follows, I feel like.
Well, because a lot of times I hear that if you work out, it builds the endorphins, it makes you happier, it makes you more positive, which is true. But if you're in that space that's so dark to begin with, it's kind of hard to see to begin it in the first place, to jump in there and think it's going to help.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, having such an extensive past in health and wellness, I do believe in the positive responses that you get from working out and the endorphins and all of that kind of stuff and seeing yourself change. But at the same time, like you just said, if you're in a place that needs to be addressed through other means, you know, absolutely, that's something that needs to be done. Because, you know, people are like, well, exercise helps fight depression, and that's true to a certain extent. But if you're in a hole, if you're depressed and you're struggling with things, like, I'm not going to say, well, why don't you do some push-ups? Like there are right, there are underlying things that need to be addressed. Can exercise help? Yeah, like you said, with endorphins, and help you feel happier and maybe a little better. And when you start to maybe change your body, you feel a little bit better about yourself, and all of that goes part and parcel with it. But if there are real issues that need to be addressed, then by all means, doing extra push-ups isn't gonna fix that.
You can't push up your way to positivity, you mean?
No. As much as I would like it to be.
Now, since you have such an extensive background and you work with a lot of people, are there similarities in people when it comes to mistakes that they make when it comes to weight loss and getting in shape?
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. And I always say that there's a lot of similarities because people are more alike than they are different. I always feel like at the end of the day, we live in a culture right now where we're pretty much pitted against each other. But if you sort of peel all that back, we're really kind of shooting for the same things. But in terms of health and wellness, first of all, there's just so much misinformation out there. There's, you know, someone would come to me and ask a question about, should I do this or should I do that? And I'd be like, which way do you want me to steer you? Because I can find research on both sides of that question. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So again, that sort of opens up a conversation to what's realistic and sustainable for your life, you know? But yeah, I think a lot of people are very similar. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of it comes from a place of, you know, of limiting beliefs, and we just feel like we can't get in shape, or we can't do this, or we can't devote an hour every few days to working out, or whatever it is. So all of those sorts of things are very similar amongst every client.
And speaking of spending hours, a few days doing workouts, people who I've always heard that like abs, you have to do so many sit-ups a day. Is it really necessary to do like 5,000 sit-ups a week in order to get abs, or is there a more precise way that you can work that so you're not spending hours in the gym to get these abs?
Usually my response to that is, what is it about abs that you think you have to have, right? What is it about abs that you want? What do you think having abs will give you that you don't have right now?
Right.
You know, like you can go into all the, like a lot of it's genetics. You see everyone has abs, but I always say you have a six pack, but if you have it tucked away in the cooler, you're not going to see it. So like you have to have like a lot of times you have to have a ridiculously low body fat percentage so that you can see the muscles. I mean, they're just muscles like every other one. So a lot of the training fundamentals apply to it. You know, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to work it every single day. Like, it's the same concept as you would use for your quads or your biceps or your triceps or whatever. But yeah, like I said, more importantly, I think there needs to be a discussion a lot of times about what do you think abs are going to do for you that you don't already have? Because you know, we see them plastered on every magazine all the time, and we think that's like the holy grail. But once people get abs, their life doesn't change. Whatever issues they had before they had abs are still there. Now they just have issues with a six pack.
And trying to keep
it.
Yeah. Are there foods that we should avoid, in your opinion? Are there any foods that we should pretty much avoid in our daily lives?
So back when I was younger and dumber, like I used to be a little more fanatical, maybe is the word, not quite the word. I don't know if I was fanatical, but my belief has really always kind of been there shouldn't be anything that you absolutely cut out. And I know there's a lot of talk right now about diet culture and that basically anything that we're advising someone to do or whatever, like maybe eat this and don't eat that or hold off on that, like that's now coming across as body shaming and food shaming and all of this stuff. So it's really kind of murky waters to walk into. But really the quick answer at the end of the day that I always kind of tell people is, how's your body responding to what you're eating now? Do you know what I mean? Like, do you feel good? Do you feel strong? Or do you feel like bloated and constipated? Or like what kind of changes are the foods that you're eating doing to you? Do you like cheeseburgers? Then have a cheeseburger. Do you need 3 a day, 7 days a week? Probably not. So yeah, so I've become a little more, I guess, lax. I've always been pro eating what you want, but now I've just relaxed it even a little bit more. But, you know, it's based on what the results that you want are. You know, if you want six-pack abs after we've made sure that that's really what you want, after we made sure that you realize that six-pack abs aren't going to like drastically change your life, but you're still hell-bent on them, then we probably need to take a look at diet and tighten it up a little bit. So I would say there's nothing that we should stop eating altogether, but everything in moderation and base it on what goals it is that you have for yourself.
Are there things that we should eat? Are there things that we should try to put into our bodies daily in order to help us fuel the workout, in order for us to optimize the way our body works?
Frappuccinos and bagels. No.
Nice.
I knew that would get your attention and make people happy. But no, I'm a big believer in fruits and vegetables and things like that. I still believe that minimally, I don't even want to use the word processed, but minimally packaged foods, I think, are the better choices. Things that we've been eating for millennia, right? Like we've been eating fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds for a long time. And so I'm a big proponent of that. I feel like the less the less, again, for lack of a better word, the less processed or packaged or the less your food comes from a factory, the better off you are.
Right.
Eat plants, not things that come from plants.
Earlier, you were talking about traveling a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
is that something that's really important to you? What have you learned in your travels or by traveling so much?
Oh my God. Um, I mean, what is that quote? Like something about traveling is like a book, and if you don't travel, you only read one page or whatever. But
Right.
um, I do acknowledge the fact that travel is a privilege. A lot of people don't necessarily get that opportunity. So I want to put that out there. I don't want to make it seem like I'm speaking from a place of everybody just needs to go wherever they like. It's not realistic all the time. And especially right now when people are so concerned with keeping their jobs and food and apartments and houses together, like there's a lot going on. But again, I think one of the things travel has taught me is what I said earlier, that at the end of the day, people are so much more alike than they are different. Like you go to France or you go to Argentina and people are the same. They like to drink wine, they like to eat, they like to hang out with their family and friends. Like, you know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think I think sometimes the message we can get through the media on that is there's us and there's them. Like everyone who's not us is them. It's the other. Like, I don't know if you ever watched the show Lost, but like the
Yes.
others, right?
Yeah.
The others are people just like us. You know, I spend time in other towns, cities, countries, whatever, and I realize, okay, these people are going to work. These people are going to the grocery store. These like they're doing the exact same thing we are, day in and day out. Most people hate their jobs, like whatever it is, you know what I mean? So I think that's probably one of the biggest things I could say that travel has taught me more than anything.
Yeah. And you haven't only traveled, you've actually moved around a little bit. So you've immersed yourself into certain cultures for a longer period of time than just visiting.
Yeah, I like to, again, given the opportunity, I like to spend time in places if I can. I know I spent 3 months in South America a couple of years ago, and I kind of was nomadic. I kind of went all over the country there, but I'm not someone who goes to fancy hotels in the tourist district of towns.
Mm.
I rent like a little condo or an apartment in like just a local neighborhood, you know, where there's an ice cream shop on the corner and there's the lavanderia or whatever it is, the laundromat, or like, I feel like that kind of gives you more of a sense of what it's like, and more of a realistic portrait of another place versus a fancy resort or a hotel. I know the first time I went to Costa Rica, I did stay at a really nice resort. And I was like, this is awesome. Like the infinity pool that looks out over the ocean and everyone's so nice and friendly. And I speak better Spanish than I thought. And then I went to Costa Rica later on a volunteer project where I was down there for about a month and realized, shit, you do not know Spanish, first of all. Living in neighborhoods with locals is a lot different than a fancy resort where they have to be nice to you. Like, yeah. So, but I do like to try to get a local flavor of wherever it is I'm going. So.
Mm. And when you do that, do you also find that you learn something about yourself each time?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Do I learn things about myself? You sort of learn how to, yeah, I mean, you learn how to be self-reliant, I think. You learn how to, because normal things that you do every day all of a sudden become a lot more complex when you
Yeah.
don't speak the language. And there are simple things that can be sort of easily translated, like where's a restaurant, or you know, there's universal sign
Yeah.
language for food or whatever. But I remember one day I was trying to find a backpack somewhere, and I don't know, whatever. It was just a mess. And the only word I knew how to say was backpack in Spanish. And I don't even know if I was pronouncing it right. So yeah, you realize, oh God, I don't know. So you learn, I guess you learn creative ways to communicate. I will say one of the things I've learned just sort of observing things is how much of communication is nonverbal.
Yeah.
Because you can watch someone across the room and not know what they're saying, but you can hear the tone in their voice and you can see their facial expressions and their movements and their body language. You're like, ooh, that person's in trouble. Like, I don't know what about, but so I don't know. I think I kind of derailed from the original question you asked me.
Okay. That's okay. What is it that you're most passionate about?
I think the thing I'm most passionate about is I want everyone to have the best life that they can. I want everyone to experience joy. I want people to be able to do the things that they're interested in or want to do. And again, I hesitate to say that because again, I feel like the counter to that is, well, it must be nice. Not everyone can do. Everyone's life is a little bit different, but within your life, within what it is you do and whatever, like, what do you want to do and how can you sort of get to that place? And, if I would say something like, I want people to be able to travel more, that doesn't necessarily mean I think everyone needs to get on a plane and go to Antarctica. Have you gone to the next town over to where you live? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much we can do in our own backyards to explore that. So I feel like no matter where you're at, there's something you can aspire to that could bring some more joy into your life. So I think honestly, that's what I'm passionate about the most, is helping people find things that make them happy, whatever that looks like in their life, where they're at currently.
That's a good answer. And what is it, the most fulfilling part of all the things that you do? What's the most fulfilling thing in it for you?
Helping people achieve that. watching people have breakthroughs, things that they thought they couldn't accomplish or do before. I'll point out to them, I'm like, you realize you're doing that thing that 6 months ago you said you wanted to do, but there was no way you could do it, right? Like, whether that's physically in a gym or whether that's something else in their life they wanted to get closer to or achieve. So I think that's the most fun part of it all. Again, with my job as a flight attendant too, though, I mean, traveling is also one of the things that bring me a lot of joy. But I've noticed during this lockdown or whatever, like, I haven't traveled much at all. I've been furloughed from work, so I haven't. Speaking of, there's a jet going over right now. I don't know if that's picking up, but I've noticed I get really antsy. I've been in my place for so long now. And,
Yep.
There for a while, I would wake up in a different city a few times a week and not even know where I'm at, basically. And I miss that. But again, that's
soon. That'll be soon. We'll be back.
That's not where we're at right now. Yes, things are looking up. I hope so.
What would you title this chapter of your life?
Wow. That's a good one. I don't know. Years ago when I was bartending, I swore I was going to write a book called Knee Deep in Booze and Broken Glass. I was behind the bar one night just wading through all that gunk on the floor and like all these glasses and bottles that had been broken. But this chapter would be called something different. Man, at the risk of plagiarizing Michelle Obama like Melania did, I think her book was Becoming, but I think something along the lines of Becoming You. Like, I don't know. I know that's also an Indigo Girls album too, but something along those lines of stepping into who you are and owning what it means to be you. That's
good. Or arriving as yourself.
Oh my God, that would be perfect with the travel industry part of me too, wouldn't it? So yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Well, now you have your chapter when you write the book.
Exactly.
Where can everybody find you online if they want to learn more about you and follow you?
I am a few different places. Are you going to link anything to?
I'll link everything in the bottom, but
okay.
I like to say it just in case people are only listening.
Yeah, I just didn't want to like if you're going to link it, I didn't want to go and spell my name and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So my website's stevenseidel.com. There's some information about me there. There's also links on that to my Facebook account and my Instagram. There's also a free ebook on that website as well. But speaking of Instagram and Facebook, Instagram is Steven Seidel Wellness at Instagram. And then I basically use my personal Facebook page as my sort of outreach page as well. Yeah, there's something really wonky about Facebook business pages. I feel like they're not intuitive. People don't see them. So I have one. It's the same thing as my Instagram. It's Steven Seidel Wellness for Facebook. But honestly, I just use Steven C. Seidel for my Facebook, and that's my personal account. So that gives you some insight into some of the other things that I do besides just health and wellness and life coaching. I take pictures of places and stuff like that. But and every once in a while, I'll go on a political rant. But that's neither here nor there. So anyway,
we're in a better
all of those.
We're in a better space now, though, as of yesterday.
Yes, I absolutely agree. So, and all those things combine together and make the person that we are. So it's interesting, I think, to sort of see that aspect of people as well. So, yeah, but a good place to start is stevenseidel.com.
Cool. And what's one thing that you absolutely cannot live without?
Coffee.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Coffee.
That's like the first thing in the morning, right?
Oh my God, it's in the morning, it's in the afternoon. I usually have a little pick-me-up. But if it was something a little more important or something other than coffee, something I can't live without besides the obvious things like phone and, whatever. I think inspiration would be the thing I would not want to live without, because we get inspired by so many different things around us, books, music, art, like whatever it is. So you'll hear a song and it'll get you to thinking about something else. And then you grow that from there. And then I think inspiration is very important. And coffee.
What's one thing that you wish we could all live without?
What's one thing I wish we could all live without?
Mm-hmm.
Hate. There's too much of that right now.
Yeah, and it's the thing that really is crazy is that even after the thing everyone was hating is gone, they're still hating it. I've noticed that online the past few days, that they're still attacking a person that's not even in office anymore, and they're still jabbing at him. And I'm like, you need to move on. You need to get out of that narrative.
Absolutely. Isn't that something? It's weird because I was thinking, because I watch a lot of Seth Meyers and Jimmy Kimmel and what's the other guy that I like? Steve Colbert. Yeah. And I've been like, man, their whole business for the past 4 years has been nothing but like bashing that person and that administration. I'm like, what are they going to do now? Like all of a sudden he's gone, and you're right, they're still like dragging him around and bringing him up. I'm like, let it rest, let it go.
If your career rides on that, then you don't have much of a career to begin with. It's like you have to. What did you do before that?
And I know they were funny before him, but I'm curious to see if they're going to get back to.
I can't wait for it, because it got to be, whether you liked him or not, I wasn't a fan, but whether you did like him or not, I think people just got tired of every day hearing the same.
Dominated every news cycle every day. And I think we're still sort of like, what is it? It's 3 days in maybe now. And we're still all sort of like, I still wake up, I'm like, oh God, what happened overnight? Because that's what I did for the past 4 years. Like what button did he push? Who did he piss off? Like,
yeah.
And now it's sort of like, I still wake up like that in a panic, like, oh shit. And then I'm like, no, it's a different day. It's a new day. And I don't know what the demographics of your listeners are. There's probably someone right now going, oh, why don't you suck it? But
I'm sure, but that's all right. If you had to describe yourself in 3 hashtags, what 3 hashtags would you use?
Oh my gosh. I would like to be able to use hashtag funny. I don't know if that's accurate or not. And hashtag authentic and hashtag, I'm causing you dead air. Yeah, I would say like funny, authentic, and real, but I realize that real and authentic are basically synonymous. So,
Yeah,
I
they
guess
should.
I'm extra real. So
How about
maybe
extra?
I'm hashtag extra.
That's good. I like that one. I don't think it's terrible to be extra. I think it's good to be extra.
Yeah,
It means you take a little more effort. That's always good.
exactly.
And if you wanted to leave everybody with one or a few things to think about or a few parting words, what would you say to everybody that's listening now?
Man, I already stole words from Michelle Obama, so now I guess I'll steal them from RuPaul. But there's a lot of truth to, we need to learn to love ourselves a little more than we do. One thing I ask people a lot of times is, would you talk to a friend the way you talk to yourself? Because I know I still say some pretty shitty things to myself, but now I catch it more. Like, it's not gone. I don't know if it ever will be. But I catch it now. I'm like, is that true? Or is that just some bullshit that you like to tell yourself, you know? So I think the thing I would like to leave people with is just how important it is to begin to be a little kinder and gentler to ourselves.
Yeah, I think that you have to just change the narrative that you're telling yourself the same way you want to change the narrative of how people treat you.
We show people how to treat us.
Yeah.
By the way we treat ourselves. So
sure. So treat yourself to a latte.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for coming by and
Thank
chatting.
you for having me.
No problem. It's always a pleasure to follow you on Instagram and wherever. So I encourage people to go and find you and follow you, because there's some
I try to make it fun. I try to make it relevant. So
there's the daily gratitude you do, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff to remind people to live in the moment and live a better moment.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And come back anytime, please.
I look forward to it. We'll see you later.
Later. Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.